If Isioma had known she would end up living with a man who left toothpaste stains in the sink and sang off key in the shower, she would have stayed in her overcrowded, rat-infested hostel in Yaba. But Lagos never asks for permission before messing up your plans. It started with a key, or rather, two keys jammed into the same stubborn lock. Isioma had just finished dragging her heavy sewing machine up 3 flights of stairs, sweat soaking the back of her t-shirt, and all she wanted was a cold shower and maybe 10 hours of sleep. Fumbling with her key, she twisted the lock, only for the door to swing open from the inside. She stepped back, startled. Facing her was a guy, tall, shirtless, holding a plate of noodles. Tunde. For a long, awkward second, they just stared at each other. "You're in my flat," Isioma said, looking confused. "You are in my flat," Tunde replied, equally confused. And just like that, reality hit them both. The greedy Lagos agent had rented out the same flat to two different people, and he was nowhere to be found. And getting in contact with the landlord didn't help matters at all, because he just told both of them to work it out. Neither of them had a plan B. Isioma's hostel room was already taken by another desperate student. Tunde's friend had moved abroad, leaving him stranded. Sharing the flat wasn't what either of them wanted, but Lagos didn't care about their feelings. So they agreed begrudgingly to stay and share the apartment. Ground rules were scribbled on a sheet of paper and pinned to the fridge. No loud music after 10 p.m. No touching each other's food. No entering each other's rooms without permission. Strictly flatmates, nothing more. The first few weeks were hell. Tunde worked late into the night, freelancing as a UI/UX designer for tech startups. He was either always on Zoom calls at odd hours of the night due to the difference in time zone, laughing too loudly, or leaving his socks everywhere around the apartment. Isioma, running her small tailoring business from home, was no better. She always had fabrics littered around every corner. Thread and needles turned the living room into a danger zone. They fought over everything: the temperature of the AC, who used the last sachet of pure water. One morning, Tunde was blasting a loud Afrobeat album at 6 a.m. because he had a gym session. Isioma got irritated, and in revenge, she prepared a large pot of oha soup using a strong-smelling ogiri, also known as fermented locust beans, for her soup, right before his online job interview, to mess with the air inside the apartment. They engaged in petty wars, and neither of them was willing to back down. Their friends called it hilarious, but to them, it was survival of the fittest. One Thursday evening, after a heavy downpour, Isioma stumbled into the flat, shivering, her clothes soaked with rainwater. In the living room, Tunde sat on the floor, laptop open, staring blankly at the screen. She paused. "Is everything okay?" she asked. He looked up with a sad expression. "I lost a major client today," he said. "They didn't even call. They just emailed me, 'Thanks, we'll be moving in another direction.'" For a moment, the world shrank to just the sound of rain and the two of them. Without saying a word, Isioma went to the kitchen, made 2 bowls of garri and groundnuts, and handed him one. They sat there, two tired bodies on the floor, soaking garri in silence. Nothing profound was said, but after that night, things shifted a little. They didn't become friends, not exactly, but their petty wars reduced drastically. Now they could sit in the same room without fighting. Sometimes they even have conversations about bad clients, Lagos traffic, and life in general. It was easier, somehow, to be angry at Lagos together than to stay angry at each other. One Sunday morning, disaster struck. The water pipe under the kitchen sink burst while they were both out. They came back to find the flat flooded ankle deep in brownish water. At first, They were shouting, accusing and blaming each other. But halfway through sleeping and sliding while trying to mop, they both started laughing. By the time they collapsed onto the tiny balcony, soaked and exhausted, the anger was gone. I miss home sometimes, Isioma said, pulling her knees to her chest. Where is home? Tunde asked softly. Owerri. Big family, big noise, big love. He smiled. I'm from Kaduna. It's different and more quiet than Lagos. Sometimes I wonder what I'm even doing here. They sat in silence, watching the city buzz around them. Maybe, Isioma thought, loneliness wasn't about being alone. Maybe it was about not having someone who knew where your heart came from. After the flood, the tension changed. They started noticing little things about each other. How Isioma hummed while sewing, a soft melody under her breath. How Tunde always double-checked the locks at night, even if it was Isioma's turn. It was the little things. One evening, Isioma was trying to fix a stubborn zip on an outfit she was making when Tunde walked past her room and paused. Then he leaned on the door frame. You're really good at sewing, you know, he said, scratching the back of his neck. She looked up, startled. He rarely complimented her. Thanks, she said, blinking. Their eyes locked. He could feel his heart racing, but he hurriedly left when his phone began to ring. But Isioma sat there for a long time, her hands frozen on the fabric, her heart racing. Isioma's birthday came on a Wednesday. She didn't expect much. Lagos life didn't leave much room for celebrations. She had a few messages from friends, a missed call from her mother, and an overly sweet bento cake sent by Amara, her friend. Tunde didn't say a word. All day, nothing. She told herself it didn't matter. They weren't dating. They were barely friends. Still, when evening came and he strolled in, sweaty from the gym, laughing at something on his phone, she could feel the disappointment settle heavy in her chest. She didn't say anything. She just went to her room, closed the door, and curled up on her bed, scrolling through YouTube. About an hour later, there was a knock. She ignored it. Then came another knock, and then the door creaked open. Tunde poked his head in, smiling. I messed up, he said. She stayed silent, not wanting to show how disappointed she was. I forgot, he admitted, and then Amara texted me, and I panicked. He stepped into the room fully now, holding a lopsided bag from the bakery down the street. I got you meat pie, he said, holding it up like a peace offering. It's not very birthday-ish, but it's hot and it's yours. Isioma stared at him, at his awkward grin. Something in her softened. You're so annoying, she said, almost in tears. I'm sorry, he replied, stepping closer. I'm really sorry, Issy, he said. You deserve better, even from a terrible flatmate like me. Their eyes locked. He stepped closer. She didn't move back. Tunde leaned in slowly. She met him halfway, and they kissed. The kiss was soft at first, as if they were testing each other. Then it deepened slowly, filled with so many soft emotions. When they pulled apart, Isioma was stunned. It was the best birthday gift ever, she thought to herself. Happy birthday, Taylor Queen, he murmured, forehead resting against hers. She smiled shyly. Maybe the best gifts didn't come in shiny bags. Maybe they came wrapped in unexpected moments, like what she had just experienced. They didn't talk about the kiss immediately. Some lines, once crossed, are too delicate to trample with careless words. But things changed after that night. The air between them was different now. It wasn't love yet, but it was becoming something neither of them could deny. They still fought sometimes about little things, but now the fights ended in laughter or quiet apologies or kisses stolen between complaints. It wasn't perfect. They were both messy, stubborn people, still figuring things out. But Iselma realized something. Home wasn't a place. It was a person. It was fighting and forgiving. It was laughing through chaos. It was Tunde under the same roof.